All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I want to talk about today is how I built an indestructible stomach. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy when I say this, but I was actually discussing this with my mother not long ago, where in my youth, I always had problems with my stomach. No matter what I ate, I don't know what would happen, but it would hurt. If I drank orange juice, it would burn my stomach. If I drank milk, lactose intolerant, this is back in the 70s, so it wasn't even that well known, I'd cramp up, right? If I ate meat, it hurt my stomach. If just many different things. I could go through the whole damn list. Everything I was eating, for the most part, with the exception of certain things, pastas maybe, you're growing up in Italian food. That's what I was surrounded by. But certain things, my mother was always cooking for me, along with a lot of other family members. And being in a large Italian family, they are eating a lot of different foods, especially seafood driven, along with a lot of meats, a lot of different things, even liver and onions. They will, besides just Italian food, just a lot of dishes that were very extreme. And I really didn't like eating. My father used to say I never ate till like 5 years old. I started to eat here and there. I ate shrimp, but for the most part, I think part of the reason I never gained weight or got bigger or stronger, I was strong, but I never gained weight is because of my stomach. I was always eating and cramping over. God forbid I ate eggs when I was younger. Holy cow. Anything dairy or anything meat really just hurt. And I wouldn't even talk about it a lot of times, but it was fine. You eat, you go through it. And then as time went on, I realized, especially throughout high school, I was wrestling, and then you got to lose weight and things. Losing weight was pretty easy for me because I didn't eat a lot, so I could just be like, okay. But I will say, then my senior year in high school, I realized, I definitely wanted to start eating more because I wanted to get bigger. And the one thing missing out of my diet was I wasn't eating enough food. I'm 135 pounds. I'm like 5'6", graduating high school, one of the shortest, skinniest kids. Even though I was I could be one of the strongest kids in my high school for my size and one of the best wrestlers, and I used to box and all that shit. So it wasn't that I was weak by any means. I just, and believe me, I'd eat, throughout high school, of course, I'm eating burritos in Chicago, a lot of beefs, sausage, hot dogs, all that stuff, burgers, besides just Italian food. Again, I ate it. It just aggravated the shit out of me at times. And then when I moved to Florida, I said the only way I'm going to get big is if I eat. I mean, it's just, I kept reading all these magazines and Muscular and Fitness. Is it Muscle and Fitness? Or Muscular Magazine, Flex, a lot of powerlifting and bodybuilding magazines. And I was looking at their diets. And I'm like, oh my God, they eat more for breakfast literally than I eat all day. But I said, how am I going to do this? I really was like, how am I going to do this? So I started taking some supplements. And truthfully, that ended up backfiring on me. So I started to eat and thought the meal replacements or supplement meal replacements would help. And they did. They definitely did. So I went literally from 135 pounds to, in time, around a little over 200 pounds. Then eventually I got up to 250, and I'll explain that in a minute. But so I was drinking these calorie drinks, these gainer fuels by Twin Lab and Genesis, where they're like, it could be 800 calories, 1,000, somewhat up to 2,000. And I felt like shit. I mean, even worse than before. I mean, these are some heavy drinks, but I loved the results. I don't know what the hell happened. One of my closest friends still says to this day that my supplements helped me grow 4 inches because I was already 19 at this point, going on 20. And all of a sudden, I had a growth spurt out of nowhere. It made no sense. A lot of people thought I was on steroids and they didn't understand all these things because I went back when I was I moved to Florida roughly when I was 18, and then I'm heading into 20, and from when they saw me before to another time, I gained 70 pounds. But here's the deal. What I learned throughout that process, even fighting through the supplements, and I really haven't taken any ever since to that level. I would take a smoothie here and there and throw some creatine. But when it came to food, I just mentally, I'm just telling you, I had to say this is bullshit. And you may be like, you're absolutely crazy. Your body's your body. I eventually trained my body and stomach to eat whatever I wanted. The thing was, I just kept consuming. And I wanted my body to adapt to what I wanted it to adapt to. Now, again, you may be like, that's insane. But I'm telling you, it worked for me. Even like I was telling you, meats before were aggravating my stomach. I eventually got to the point, and I think I did this for 10 or 15 years, I ate a steak a day, or I tried to, and I'd come close. If I didn't do a steak, I would do a burger, but most of the time I would do a steak a day. I spent a tremendous amount of money, don't get me wrong, either at home or eating it for lunch or dinner. If you know anything about me, I used to hang out I was always out in restaurants. A lot of them were fine dining, and a lot of them were Italian, both of those, but for the most part, I was eating a lot of meat, chicken, and fish. And I just kept eating. Even eggs in the morning, I was like, oh my goodness, I'd have eggs once in a while, and they would aggravate me. I said, you know what, I'm going to do eggs a lot. Steak and eggs. Or I would do eggs at night. I would do hard-boiled eggs. Eventually, yeah, it would just start. My stomach would just slowly adapt to accepting it, and the pain would go away. And I was experimenting kind of with what my body really didn't like throughout the years. Now, a lot of people would be like quite the opposite. They would be like, I'm not going to eat that ever again. It makes me feel this way. This is doing that to me. That's doing that. Hey, I get it. I'm all about feeling good and doing what's right. But I also was at the point where I didn't know what to do anymore, food-wise. With the exception of just a few things, they just always hurt my stomach. But by me consuming and mentally saying, I can eat this now, I don't know what happened. A trigger happened where eventually I just could eat whatever the hell I wanted to eat. I went through that with feeling sick too. I discussed a lot of my podcast or YouTube videos where I didn't feel good when I was younger a lot of times. Not sure if it was the climate, whatever the case may be. I just had earaches. I had to have my tonsils removed. I had colds all the time, spitting up phlegm. And this isn't a boo-hoo fest for me. It's not like this happened all the time. But I was sick quite often. I missed a lot of school. Finally, as I got older, I said, you know what? I am not sick anymore. Nothing is going to get me sick. Now, you may be like, you're crazy. I'm just telling you, these are things I do and still do that work very well for me. I still am at 50. People are shocked that I can eat anything, and it doesn't faze me. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have a stomach ache here or there or have gas or whatever the hell. Like, what? No shit, that's everyone. But for the most part, I can eat, and I can eat whatever I want. And I just go right through it. That could go for fast food, even junk food or whatever. It could be still a big steak. It could be chicken. It could be whatever. Pastas. I eat all these foods. I also, I believe, program my body to look a certain way while I'm eating these foods. Again, you're like, you're absolutely ridiculous. No, I combine workouts that I know work for me, that make me feel good, along with eating whatever the hell I want. It's more or less about portion control than it was anything else after a certain amount of time. But I always I treat my body as my own human experiment. And just because you can't do certain things, like say food or eat certain things that you really may enjoy, just because you can't enjoy them, it may not, you don't have to quit. It may be you're eating too much of them. It may be a certain style. It could be even back to eggs or a certain type of steak or a certain type of meat, a certain type of fish. A lot of times we just say, oh, we eat something. We're like, oh my God. If you're allergic, let me put it this way. If you're allergic, don't touch anything. I'm not saying that. And if things make you feel sick, you're going to throw up or you're, whatever. I wasn't at that level. So let me make myself clear. But I do believe we can, conquer and overcome a lot of things when it comes to our health. That could go for not only workouts, but what we're eating and drinking, because a lot of people give up very quickly. Or they think what they're being told is what works for everyone else when it comes to nutrition. So like if you eat this, you're going to, what happened? You had this reaction, then you have this. You may, but you also may realize that may not be it. That could have just been one type of event. And I'm going to wrap it up with this. If you're having problems eating certain foods, or foods that you like and you just, either you can't eat them anymore or you never could. What I realized too was what time of day I was eating them had a huge effect on me. So I'll just use for an example, when I drink orange juice in the morning, which I do now, but I have to have it with oatmeal, but I have to eat food first before I put anything acidy in my stomach. So I would drink orange juice like a lot of people, and then my stomach would just be burning. Same with coffee. Right? I can't drink coffee in the morning, and I loved it. I grew up drinking coffee, and coffee made me feel, first, it was just burning a hole in my stomach, because like a lot of my Italian family members, they would drink it first thing in the morning, even when I was younger. And I would do it with them, and then I felt like shit throughout the day. But then I realized later in the afternoon and at night, Coffee felt great. But back to orange juice burning my stomach, I just realized I had to have something else in my stomach. Then I realized oatmeal for me still to this day is the best thing to start off with. I love OJ and then I love hydrating, right? So for instance, if I love donuts, right? Once in a while when you were younger, I realized if I ate a donut first thing in the morning, it was brutal. I couldn't handle it. But again, I can have that donut, say, for lunch or later. I didn't necessarily just have to have it for breakfast. It could be a snack later in the afternoon. And I'm just using these for an example. It could be even, a steak, for instance. I can't hit steak and eggs in the morning. I don't care what age, how big, how strong it was. It bogged me down, made me feel like shit. I just did it the other day with my mother for a later lunch. And I could tell it still hit me, but not as bad. But at night, I feel great eating steak. Don't know why. So what I'm saying there is, what I'm just trying to say is certain things that you're doing. Now, I will say this, let's not even go with something nutritional. Let's say a beer, for instance, right? I can't drink at all in the mornings or even afternoons for the most part. Even when I'm traveling, maybe if everyone's drinking, I might have something. I feel like shit throughout the day. Burns my stomach, ruins my meal, and not only will ruin lunch, it'll ruin dinner for me a lot of times. I just don't feel good on alcohol. But again, later in the evening, later at night, I can drink a beer or have a glass of wine. I feel great. Throughout the rest of the day, for the most part, not so much. Maybe for lunch with a little pasta, I could do wine, but alcohol just in general. So I know people are like, oh, I'm allergic to alcohol or alcohol poisoning and all this shit. I'm like, well, maybe. But also, what times were you drinking it? How much were you drinking? What types were you drinking? Everything has a different effect on you. Don't just kind of throw everything kind of in the mix, I guess you could say, when it comes to your stomach or what you're consuming. Because I could assure you there's so many different things that are coming into play regarding what you eat and what you drink. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I got a website, richcelenza.com. You want to check it out? What else do I got? Mastering Self-Confidence. I'm also working on something else that I'll be probably launching in the next, who the hell knows, with me, month or two. I'm always working on something. But if you got any questions or comments, hit me up. But believe me, create the body. I look at like the body being indestructible. Of course it isn't. But I do believe that your body can handle a lot more than you think. I just did a podcast on that. Don't sell yourself short, man. If you want to eat, drink, or do certain things to it, you just got to get creative, pay attention, because it's not always so cut and dry. All right, take care.